What's up? It's Ben from WODprep, and welcome to what I hope is the ultimate guide to fix your chicken wing muscle-ups. So whether you struggle with chicken wing bar muscle-ups or ring muscle-ups, this is the video for you. A lot of times people do it without even noticing. Here's what it looks like, and it's killing your muscle-up potential. So with the bar, a chicken wing bar muscle-up looks something like this. See how my right arm is getting over well before my left. I'll demonstrate one more time. Right and then left. And then it also happens for people on the rings too. Harder to demonstrate, but I'm going to do it anyway, hopefully not get injured. I don't know how people do this, but it happens. So where the right arm goes over first and then the second one swings over. And I can probably make it even more pronounced. Ugh. Okay, enough of that. So, if you do the chicken wing, how can you fix it? The first thing we're going to do, before I go over 5 different ways to fix it, is I'm going to talk about what causes the chicken wing, and then we can reverse engineer how to fix it so that you're floating above the bar without any chicken wing or floating above the rings without a chicken wing. And if you stick around to the end of this video, I'm going to talk to you about 2 free training guides I'd love to give you. One's about bar muscle-ups and one's about ring muscle-ups. So if you want to get extra training from me and get some free bar muscle-up or ring muscle-up training, then stick around to the end. I'll tell you where you can grab that. So first, let's start with the bar, because it is easier to demonstrate, but the same thing happens on the bar muscle-up chicken wings as does the ring muscle-up chicken wings. So what is occurring here? When I do a chicken wing, what happens is that one hand death grips the bar or the rings, and then the other hand transitions first. The people who do chicken wings oftentimes are not trusting their transition enough. So what occurs is that as I elevate myself to get above the bar, I have one hand, in my case when I demonstrate, I'm death gripping with my left hand. This hand is giving me the extra pull that my body thinks it needs to fully get above the bar. So what happens here is as I'm pulling up, I get my elevation, I allow one hand to transition, which for me in these demos is my right hand. I allow one hand to slide around the bar and it gets into that transition. Then and only then does my body trust the fact that I've made the bar muscle up, and then it allows my left hand to relax and rotate to actually finish the rep. So oftentimes the reason we develop chicken wings is because we don't trust our body, or our body doesn't trust us, enough to actually get the height required to allow both hands to transition at the right time. Because remember, when we're doing a bar muscle up or a ring muscle up, ideally the perfect rep has both hands slightly releasing and rotating into that dip position at the exact same time. That's definitely the most efficient way to do it. It's definitely the smoothest way to do it, and it's the least fatiguing way to do it. So that's the way you should do it. But what happens is that as we're practicing, too often I see people saying, hey, whatever gets me above the rings or whatever gets me above the bar, that's all I care about. And what happens is they develop really bad habits where they start throwing one hand over the other. And what happens is you'll notice if you watch someone who does chicken wings with every single muscle up, you'll notice they even throw one hip into the kip, where they literally will kip, they pop their hips, and then they swing their body to the side. They kind of twist in order to throw one hand over the bar or the rings, and then they let the other one follow. And that's a habit that we are going to try to break, because it's kind of like a purgatory. Once you get trapped in doing chicken wing bar muscle-ups or chicken wing ring muscle-ups, it is very difficult to train yourself out of it. But lucky for you, I have 5 different tips that I'm going to go through that will hopefully help you fix it or at least make progress in the right direction. The first way to fix the chicken wing, whether it's on the bar or the rings, is to notice that you're doing it. Oftentimes people just get above the bar or get above the rings and they have no idea that they're letting one hand get over before the other, thus causing the chicken wing. For some athletes that I've coached in my seminars and in my courses where I teach bar muscle ups and ring muscle ups, for some athletes, when I just tell them that they're doing it, They're like, oh, really? And then they fix it. Some of us have the body awareness to do that, but that's a very cheap and easy and quick fix. So maybe you've never noticed that the reason you're doing a chicken wing is because you're death gripping with that pulling hand or the trailing hand. So maybe simply me telling you that, hey, you just need to release this left hand if the left hand is the one that's late to the party, so to speak. Maybe all you need to do is start thinking about, oh, I just need to make sure that when I go for the transition, I release both hands instead of holding on to one hand while the other transitions. Remember, both should release and regrip at the same time as we get above the bar or as we get above the rings. If you're someone where that cue doesn't magically make it all go away, which is most of us, then there's a special drill that I teach people, and it actually works miraculously well, and that is trying to reverse your chicken wing. So for instance, in these demonstrations, if I'm an athlete who always gets my right arm over first and then the left one follows, in some of my seminars, I've literally told people, I'm like, hey, I want you to try to chicken wing with the opposite hand. So in this case, rather than going right over first, then trailing with the left, I tell them, try going left first and then trail with the right. And oftentimes, crazily, what happens is, boom, they both go over the bar at the same time. I can't tell you how many times that in my seminars, that one cue has miraculously made people just, boom, pop over the bar with both transitioning at the same time. So that's step number one, is try to reverse the chicken wing, and oftentimes that will fix the chicken wing altogether. The next tip I want to share is a lot of us, when we're doing bar muscle ups and ring muscle ups, we wear grips. And I think sometimes grips can be the issue, but they can also be the solution. So let's say you're an athlete who has grips, or you've used them before, or maybe you wear them on both hands. All is good and well, and you do the chicken wing, okay? So again, my example here is I let my right arm transition first, and then my left one trails. Sometimes I have athletes remove a grip from the hand that goes early and keep the grip on the hand that goes late. And for whatever reason, I think the fact that the gymnastic grips force us to have a slightly looser grasp on the bar, sometimes wearing a grip on the trailing hand can be the key that allows us to transition both at the same time. Because if you see here, when I grab the bar, I have a much stronger grip with my naked hand than I do with my gripped hand. So sometimes for people, if they're always transitioning right hand over first, if I get them to use a grip on the trailing hand, it'll allow them to actually relax the grip a little bit more and make that full transition. So you can try this. Try switching up the grip. It might even be the case where you wear the grip on the first hand that transitions over, and then having a naked hand for the trailing arm is the key. I've seen it go both ways, but one thing I definitely suggest, if you chicken wing, try wearing a grip on one hand and not the other, and then if that doesn't fix it, switch it up. Because for whatever reason, just having that extra bit of material between your hand and the thing you're grabbing can help it transition around that apparatus a little bit easier. So again, if I chicken wing right and then left, try wearing a grip on your left hand. If that doesn't fix it, then switch it up. Wear the grip on your right hand and see if that allows you to actually feel the release of your hand so that you can fix and have them both go over at the same time. The next tip I want to share is a cue that I like to call fast elbows. So on the rings and the bar, a lot of athletes struggle with what I call slow transition syndrome. So what happens is when we're gripping, whether it be the rings or the bar, we death grip all the way until we get way above the apparatus, and then we allow our hands to transition. That habit oftentimes turns into a chicken wing because basically we're being really, really patient or too slow with the hand transition. So you'll see one arm you transition and then one arm trails behind. If you're an athlete that gets above the bar and you still haven't transitioned to that full dip position, or you get above the rings and your wrists are still really bent and you haven't let them fully commit to the transition, oftentimes the cue of fast elbows will fix it. You might have heard this term used in cleans. So has anyone ever told you that the key to a clean is really driving your elbows through to receive the bar in your front rack position? If that's the case, it's the same thing when it comes to muscle ups. Rather than waiting to get above the bar or above the rings and then letting your hands slide in transition, I want you to actually think about letting your hands transition and slide into that dip position before you've completed the transition. Here's what it looks like in practice. And again, it's way easier for me to demonstrate on the bar, but it also does apply to the rings. So a slow transition or slow elbows would look like this. I have my grip, I do the bar muscle up, and then only when I'm up here, that's when I let my hands transition over the bar, okay? So if you're catching the bar or the ring muscle ups and your wrists are really bent like this and your elbows are tucked behind you, then you'll probably have a slow transition. In order to speed things up and to help us alleviate the chicken wing that oftentimes comes with that, what I want you to think about is that as you go to transition, I want your hands and elbows to make that transition before your body does, or before you settle above the rings or the bar. So it's going to be very slight, but hopefully in slow motion you can see it. All I'm doing here is that when I'm getting above the bar, I send my hands and elbows through the transition even before my body weight gets there. So I'm doing fast elbows. So just like with the clean, sometimes all you have to do is drive the elbows through and that's going to help you catch the clean. The same thing happens on the muscle up. I'm getting up and then as I transition, I'm saying, I know I can get this. I transition both hands and regrip into this dip position. So literally, it kind of feels like I pull and then I'm getting into this position, which is the beginnings of my dip. So watch really quick. Rather than this, transition, then let my hands slide, I'm going to slide my hands first and then allow myself to complete the transition. So it's very slight there, but you can see I'm sending my shoulders through into that dip position before my body weight gets there. And that sometimes is all you need to fix that transition error. And when we fix that transition error, oftentimes it does fix that chicken wing. Do you love puppies? Do you hate taxes? Do you want to get bigger muscles and look cool? Then hit the subscribe button, give me a thumbs up, and I would really appreciate that because then the YouTube overlords will send more people to this video and all the other WODprep videos. Thank you so much. The next tip I want to share is the concept of more height equals less chicken wing. And here's what I mean by that. I think a big reason a lot of athletes develop a chicken wing is because they're barely getting high enough to make the bar muscle up transition or the ring muscle up transition. So they develop this habit where they're giving a little bit of extra pull with the trailing hand. And that extra pull just gives them a little bit more confidence that, okay, I have enough height. And once I get one hand above the bar, I know I can get the second hand above the bar. And I think a lot of times it all comes down to just not getting enough height on your kip. So whether it be on the rings or on the bar, if you can focus on getting more height from your kip or more momentum from your kip, that should alleviate the natural tendency to put one arm first to test it before the second one trails. So what I want you to do and what I want you to think about is how can you develop more height on your kip? So how can I get the absolute maximum amount of momentum into the bar muscle up kip or into the ring muscle up kip so that I don't have to test the waters by putting one in front of the other. Instead, you have so much elevation and so much height that, boom, both of them get over the bar or the rings easily. You might have noticed that if I tell you to do banded bar muscle ups, voila, all of your chicken winging goes away. And that's simply because that band is giving you that extra lift. It's giving you the confidence that you're like, oh, I don't have to test the waters. I know I can easily get both hands above the bar or above the rings easily. So in order to do it without a band, what I want you to think about when we do a bar muscle up or a ring muscle up is rather than starting the rep with some sort of half-hearted swing where we're probably not going to get enough momentum, I really want you to focus on that first rep, that first kip. You have to generate a lot more momentum than you're used to. So rather than just, all right, I'm here, I'm gonna jump up, I'm gonna do a little swing, and then I can kind of get that chicken wing bar muscle up. Instead, I want you to think of it as a 1 rep max attempt. It is a 1 rep max attempt of how high can you kip, and then the actual bar muscle up or ring muscle up transition is easy because you have is easy in air quotes, because you have so much momentum. So rather than some half-hearted hollow arch, oh, I can barely get it, I want you to really focus on generating a ton of momentum, and a ton of upward momentum equals less chicken winging. So here's the bad version. Again, you kind of hear, I see so many athletes do this, like, yeah, I'll do a bar muscle up, and they'll be like here, and they go, and if you saw that, I had hardly any momentum on my kip. I was basically starting with 0 momentum because that was such a half-assed attempt at doing a kip. Instead, what does it look like when you put all of your effort into that one kip to get as much upward momentum as possible? Might look something like this. Watch how high I jump into that first kip. Watch how strong my hollow position is. And watch how aggressively I drive my head through into that arch position. With a 1 rep max kip, with all of my momentum into that hollow, arch, big swing back, that big lever position, I floated above the bar, and in theory, you should be able to kip high enough where you don't even need to catch it hardly in a dip. That time when I got above the bar, I probably caught it like here, and I didn't have to dip very far. That's because I got so much momentum from the kip that it alleviated any mystery of whether I was going to be high enough, and thus it eliminates the need to chicken wing. If when you jump into your kip, you jump and you could just hang there like this and not swing back and forth, you're doing it wrong. But if I jump and I let go and it flies me forward, that shows me that I'm really generating a lot of momentum and a lot of potential energy with that jump into a hollow body position. So fix your kip aggression, and maybe it's going to fix your chicken wing problem. All right, and it's time to move on to my final tip regarding fixing the dreaded chicken wing on both bar or ring muscle ups, and that is perfect singles are more valuable than unbroken sets. And here's what I mean by that. Oftentimes when people get stuck in this chicken wing habit, it's because they've ingrained the habit over years and years of being able to do bar or ring muscle ups. They're like, hey, this is how I get above the bar, this is how I get above the rings, and it works for me. But the issue is you're kind of capping your potential if you're someone that always chicken wings. So what I suggest that you do is you back down your expectations of how big of sets you can hit, and you focus on doing perfect singles in your workouts and in practice. So rather than doing a set of 3 bar muscle ups or ring muscle ups where every single time you're chicken winging, I want you to put all of your effort into making 1 single rep count and make it look perfect. It's the same thing as with weightlifting. If we're doing a big set of snatches and you have to do 10 unbroken in the middle of a Metcon, a lot of times all these bad habits creep in and we're just like, hey, whatever gets the rep. But that kind of thwarts our potential at truly hitting a good 1 rep max. And it also thwarts our potential in doing bigger sets of heavier weights. So in order to fix the chicken wing, I want you to back down the amount of muscle ups you're doing, but focus on making each rep perfect. So yes, I want you, especially in practice, I'm not saying do this during the open or anything like that. In practice, I want you to no rep yourself when you do a bar muscle up with a chicken wing or when you do a ring muscle up with a chicken wing. Yes, technically I know that rep counts in CrossFit. But if we're doing that all the time, all you're doing is training yourself to do a chicken wing muscle up. So in order to practice perfect reps, I want you to do less reps, but try to make them perfect every single time. So that means maybe instead of doing a set of 2 or 3 bar muscle ups with the chicken wing, it means that you're doing singles, focusing on that big kip like we talked about earlier, and making sure that each and every rep, maybe record yourself, have someone else watch you, make sure each and every rep you are eliminating the chicken wing. Because when you can eliminate the chicken wing, that means you're going to be eliminating a lot of bad habits. Again, when we chicken wing, oftentimes, especially on the bar, and this happens on the rings too, I see people throw one hip. So when they do that hip pop to finalize the movement, they twist to get their dominant arm over, or to get whichever that first arm is over. And that twist is going to screw us over for any sort of long-term maximal muscle up potential. So in order to fix that, get rid of the chicken wing. That's going to get rid of that hip thrust twisty thing that a lot of people do where they throw one hip in front of the other. And when we can practice doing perfect reps every time, eventually that will train out the habit of chicken winging. Another thing that you can do, whether this is on the bar or the rings, you can add a band, or you can have someone support you to give you a little bit of that extra lift. But what I want you to do is that in practice, you should be practicing perfect reps. For some of you, it might be going from doing RX bar muscle ups to doing them with a band, but practicing with a band with a smooth, even transition every time, and making sure that you completely remove the chicken wing from your training. Because if we start to practice with perfect form, then that's going to translate to hitting bigger sets and eventually getting rid of that chicken wing altogether. So with this, I hope that these 5 tips help you get rid of the dreaded chicken wing and eventually unlock your full potential as a muscle upper. If you like this video, remember I have 2 free training guides I'd love to give you. One is for ring muscle ups, another is for bar muscle ups. It's going to help you get your first and hopefully lots of unbroken. Just go to the links down in the description. I believe it's WODprep.com/BMU or WODprep.com/RMU. RMU is for ring muscle ups, BMU is for bar muscle ups. You can go there, enter your name and email address, and I'll send you a completely free training guide to your email. And if you want to really take things up a notch and fully get rid of all these bad habits and really unlock your potential, I actually have some paid programs that might really benefit you. I have Bar Muscle Up Mastery, which is our best-selling bar muscle up program, and then I have Muscle Up Madness, which is our ring muscle up program. Either one of those is a great option for you to get rid of the chicken wing and fully develop your muscle up skills so that you can unlock your full muscle up potential. If you want more information on those, I'll also include the links down below in the top comment and the description. And last but not least, if you like this video, do me a favor, leave a comment. What's one thing you learned in this video? It could be you fixing something. I would love to see some testimonials for people who use this video to fix a chicken wing. Or maybe it's something you're like, hey, I commit to practicing this in my next training session. So leave a comment below. Let me know what you're going to do with this video or how this video helped. Thumbs up if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. Smash the subscribe button so that you don't miss any more free training content like this. And I will see you in next week's video. Surprise! Do you like this video? Well, we got a lot more where that came from, and hopefully I'm less jacked up on caffeine. Click this box to get more free WODprep videos.